Hello, today is April 29th, 2025. This is a special meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. Meeting is virtual and is recorded and can be viewed tomorrow on the town's YouTube channel. Calling to order at 7:03. Chair's comments. I don't have any other comments other than thanking the members that are here for attending on this an odd night for us. Public comment. We have no public.
We do have one public.
Oh,
Mark Peterson.
okay. Mark, we're doing public comments. If you have anything to comment. Okay. Moving on. Okay, old business CFY 26 budget, which is the main reason for our meeting tonight. We need to prepare that. Carlton and I have, in conjunction with Laurie Greeny, our finance director, have put together a suggested budget that we can discuss tonight.
I can put it up if you want.
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Just takes me a couple minutes here. Can you see that?
Nope, we can see you.
Crud. Share. How's about that? No,
It's
that's
not.
not.
Nope, that's not it.
I'm sorry. It's supposed to be sharing.
Well, it's sharing, but you're just not sharing the right thing.
Well, what is sharing? All right, let me try to figure out what's going on. I'm so sorry. My screen's showing.
Well, we
Josh,
can see.
I'm going to stop sharing for a minute.
Okay,
I could see that fine. I saw the budget.
yeah,
Okay, let me find it. There we go. Is that doing okay?
nope, we can see you.
Let's just talk about it because I can't figure it out.
Okay. What
Carlton, Carlton, it was just up. I just saw the 900,000 2% surcharge. You had it up.
Well,
if you open the file, it's okay if it's not shared separately. You had it shared, but it was like looking at the file itself, not as shared, just that. Okay, here we go.
there it's shared. I see it now.
Okay.
Okay. So, Ginny, you want to go through this?
Okay, quickly, for the surcharge, CPA surcharge, last year we based it, and this is just anticipated. Obviously, it's not realistic. It's what we anticipate. Last year, we anticipated 875,000, and we're going to way exceed that this year. The state match, I can't remember what we based it on last year, but it was 100,000. This year, the estimate from the state and the coalition is 15.9%. So we just based it on 15% for nice round numbers, which comes out to 15% of 900,000 is 135,000. We don't include for revenue. We don't include tax liens that come in. We also don't include interest. So those are all bonuses as they come in. Okay, so that totals $1,035,000. Okay, we have to put in, the state says, Carlton, down just a tad. There you go. We have to put at least minimum of 10% into each of the pots. Community housing open space, and that also includes recreation, open space and recreation. The historical resources reserve. We have to put a minimum, as I said, at 10%. We thought, based on how much income we're anticipating, we thought to increase it to 15% for each pot. Last year, and Carlton can explain this part more.
So Gina, could you,
Oh.
could you go back to that for a second?
Sure,
So we only have to allocate, how much each bucket is 10%, isn't that correct?
correct.
It's required a minimum of 10%. We can put higher if we wish, or we can put
So-
lower.
And we talked about this last year.
Yes.
You know, just in the event that we get a big land purchase, or in the event we get something, why don't, and we talked about this last year, I guess, why don't we always want to give ourselves maximum flexibility? So let's say that, you know, the unrestricted money we can use for anything. We could use all of it for historic preservation. We could use all of it for affordable housing. I just, if we're allocating it, we can always use it for those other buckets, but why wouldn't we, and we talked about this last year and we ended up doing it, why wouldn't we give ourselves maximum flexibility, put the minimum in each bucket, and then put the maximum in unrestricted, so that we can always move that around as we see fit. If it's in a bucket and we need it, and it's not for that purpose, we can't get it out.
Correct.
And
Okay,
I'll just let me just remind people, last year, because I'm gonna go down here, see the Academy building, the 240 and 786. That money, because it's more than 10%, can count against the historic reserve, since we're already paying that out annually. So last year we made it 0 because we were anticipating a large land purchase and we wanted the cash. This year, I haven't heard of any real large land purchases, and we just put it back to 15%.
All right, that's fine. I mean, I just like the most flexibility possible, but if that's fine.
okay. Right now, we have, as of March 31st, available budgets. We have open space, roughly 223,000, historic preservation, 580,000. I'm just rounding off the figures. And housing, 246,000. Undesignated right now is 998,000.
That's not shown on the chart, right?
No, I'm just looking at what came out from
That's
the finance director for
Okay.
the end of March.
So
What-
I can change these numbers if people want.
Okay, what's the feeling of committee members? Do you want to see it back down to 10%, which gives us
I mean,
more?
what happens if we don't use $155,250 from the
You get-
community housing reserve? We don't lose it. Does it go
No.
back into the general fund, or does it remain in the housing reserve?
No, it goes into undesignated.
No,
Which we
it,
can-
no,
No,
no, no.
It would remain in
I'm
that fund.
sorry, right, I misquoted, I missaid that.
If we put it in the
And that-
reserve, it stays in the reserve until it's taken out.
Right,
And that's why I always think we're best to give ourselves maximum flexibility. So if put the minimum in each bucket, and then put the rest in unrestricted. That way we have discretion based on projects during the course of the year.
That makes a
Okay.
lot of sense to me. Yeah, I
Right.
understand Pat's point.
and we can split. Yeah, I can't talk tonight. We can split projects too, so say a bigger open space purchase comes in, we can take it out of open space and undesignated. Okay,
That's
so,
true.
okay, so Carlton adjusted.
But we need consensus on that. I just did that to
Yeah.
show you the numbers.
Okay, we heard from Pat and Bill. Jeff, your thoughts? Okay, Jeff was gonna be driving, so I don't know if he's He's here, but he's muted. We'll give Jeff a second to jump on.
Well, let's come back to that. The 5% for administrative expenses is 51,750 based on what our income would be. And we have a couple of things that we would pay out of that. That would be the coalition dues. We have some other things that we're talking about, to including some salary support for someone to work on minutes, that kind of thing. But we just rolled the number up, and we'll have another conversation around the latter point that I just made.
Right, plus that includes dues, which is roughly $1,000, the dues to the coalition, if I remember.
3,500 last year.
3,500. My brain's not working today.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
and then the rest of is shown here is the Academy building renovations. We're still paying $240K a year, and this year the interest is 7,600. And then the Keith Homestead, which expires next year, is $33,000 owed and $371 and change for interest. That will come off the books in FY26.
Good.
And the Academy building retires in 2020. I'll get it out, 2036. There has been some conversations that I've heard about potentially reducing the CPC surcharge or even it going away. And I want to make the point so the public understands, if that would happen, not the 1%, but if the CPA was voted out of the town municipal budget would have to pick up the Academy building for the next remaining years. So that's not a wise thing to do. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, we have Harry's on now. Harry, just thanks for joining us. Discussing the budget. Carlton, can you make that big again? Okay, can you scroll it down just so we can catch Harry up on?
Yeah, I'm going to put the 15 back.
Okay,
Okay.
yep, good. Little more. Scroll down just a tad. Nope, other way. Right there. Oops. No, back down.
Okay, I'm seeing 15% reserve.
Okay, I'm looking to see the anticipated income.
Okay, thank you. There it is.
Okay, so last year, just to catch Harry up and to reiterate for the rest of us, we're anticipating 900,000 this year. Last year, we based it on 875,000, but we've exceeded that. So we increased it to another 25,000 up to 900,000. The state match last year, I'm not sure what percentage we used off the top of my head, but we estimated 100,000. This year, the state and the coalition is estimating a 15.9% match. We rounded it off, nice round numbers, to 15%. So it's 135,000. So altogether we have 1,035,000 to spend or to put into buckets.
And that's not including past money that we have still unused, right?
Right. This is just the FY26 anticipated revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. So the state says, the CPA, the Mass General Law says we have to put a minimum of 10% into of that 1,035,000. A minimum of 10% into the housing reserve, open space and recreation reserve, and historical resources reserve. We had just tentatively put in 15%, but Pat has suggested moving it back down to 10% to give us more flexibility in undesignated. Harry, any thoughts on it?
No, that looks good.
The 15% or the 10%?
I'd try to go to 15.
Okay, thank you. Jeff?
Hey, I'm here.
Okay, your thoughts on 15% or keeping it the minimum of 10%?
I think keeping it at the minimum of 10% works better. Having it more would go in the unrestricted bucket, right?
Correct.
So Gina, just the people that are in favor of 15%, like Harry and Carlton, help me understand the benefit of going 15%. That money becomes restricted. Why wouldn't, so if somebody can convince me of the benefit of going to 15, I'd consider it, but I don't see any benefit of 15 when we have the ability to move that money around if it's unrestricted and potentially fund a bigger project in one of those areas.
Yeah. Pat,
Okay,
actually, it was suggested that we put 20%. We moved it down to 15. I don't have a problem going down to 10%.
Suggested from who or where? I guess I'm trying to understand.
Finance director had initially put 20%, and we said, nope, that's too much. But and then we told her that we
Well,
would
what she
simply
just
talk with
simply-
you
what
guys,
she-
and
what she
if there's a consensus that it's 10%, happy to do it 10%.
okay,
Well, I still think the 10% just gives us more flexibility. I don't understand why the finance director would want us to go to 20% unless it was less work for them to move funds around.
okay.
I don't understand that logic.
The reason, Carlton, can you scroll it down so we could just see what goes into the reserve?
Oh, that's right. This number.
Okay. After we put into the buckets, the 3 buckets, the debt service, the admin funds, anything left over, you total those up. And anything left over, in this case, I think we were still at 15% here, is 165,528.75. What her intent at the 20% was to make that 0. But we would like to see the budgetary reserves. The reason the reserves was originally set up is the funds, and someone correct me if I'm wrong here, the funds that we come up with tonight for budget, until the funds are certified, they can't be spent. So anything that goes into budgetary reserves or budgetary reserves, which eventually becomes undesignated, can be spent at any time. They can be spent July 1st, July 2nd.
Yeah.
So
So basically what Gina's saying, we can access that budgetary reserve even if it's in the fiscal year before it's certified.
Right.
correct,
We've always had that privilege.
Yes. So
right,
I'm going to suggest we move it to 10% because I think there's a majority of us consensus wise that wants 10%.
right.
Everybody agree?
I'll agree
Yes.
with that.
Yep.
Now, if I can just do this.
Okay,
So that moves the number going to the reserves of 103,500 each, total of 310,500. The administrative expenses stay the same. The bond payoffs are the same. And actually, why did that do budgetary reserves at less money? Oh, why is that doing that?
because I don't think it automatically adds.
Oh, that's okay.
It used to, but
Well, it did before.
okay,
So anyway,
you-
we just took that down significantly. Well, that number will go up and I'm gonna have to figure out how to do the
okay,
equation.
Carlton, if you scroll it back up, I'll just add them as we're doing it. Okay, so that's 310,
No, I know what to do. I know what to do. Well, this plus this. This. All right, now. I'm sorry, I had this all set up and it's screwing up.
That's okay. I came with, if I added it right. Let me just subtract off.
We have three
Well,
numbers to add, right?
Well, yeah, and I did that
Subtract
here.
From
If you look up here,
budget.
oh, maybe I think I picked the wrong one. I got to do this.
What was our anticipated?
Just a minute. I found an error. There, no reserves. I'm apologizing, guys, because we should have a large budgetary reserve. Oh, I know what it is. The formula's got taken out of this some time ago.
Oops.
Bear with us, folks. So that's the amount of money we have. We take that amount.
Subtract those three numbers.
Yeah,
Those three expenses. And then we get this budgetary reserve.
It should add it by itself.
it's not, Gina, the formula's got taken out.
Yeah, that's what. And what is,
I don't know what's going on.
Calvin, what does the debt service total?
Just a minute, let me get rid of this. My ability to do this kind of stuff. Oh, I screwed up. There, now, equal.
Downstairs in the printer tray
This
are several pages. Can you break them up? Thanks.
minus this minus this minus this. There we go.
That's it. That's it.
Thank you. I'm sorry. So we have additional 320,000 that we could spend this year. If we pass this, and the total funds used equals out, so everything balances.
Yep.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking through.
Uh,
And that's about like we had last year. Last year we had about 300,000 in the budgetary reserve.
Okay, I come up with that same figure too. Okay, can you scroll down just to the three total? Yep. And the total surplus or deficit, our goal is to make it 0. That means that we put the money, put it all into pots, and there was none left over from the estimated revenue. Okay. Do we have a motion to accept this with the 10% amounts? And
I move that we approve the budget proposal as amended.
Okay,
For FY 26, right?
Yeah. actually, we probably don't have to say as amended because it wasn't motion to begin with. It we're just showing our possible budget. So if you can motion
Proposed budget.
proposed budget, right? So we didn't
Yeah.
have a motion on that to begin with. So your
Need a
motion
second?
for the
I'll second
proposed-
it.
Okay, hold on. So Bill, you're motioning to accept the proposed budget with the 10% pots, right?
That's what I heard.
Okay, okay, and I think we had Harry was a second. Okay, Josh, roll call,
Tina,
yes,
Carlton,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes,
Jeff,
Yes.
Pat,
Just for clarification, I've been trying to get info. Did we go to the 10% or stay at the 15?
10%,
10? Yes.
and Harry.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
thank
okay,
you.
that is
I'm gonna s-
unanimous, thank you. Okay, project updates, Carlton, do you wanna give an update on the Hanson Farm?
Yeah, I will. Just give me 2 seconds while I save that. Okay, the Hanson Farm, as everybody hopefully knows, the council approved the $3 million grant. And they also approved the budget that we proposed and recommended for the CPC. Basically, everything's in progress. One of the things that has to happen is that the CPA funds have to be expended before June 30th. That included signage. At this point, right now, the town manager had indicated we should start working on the signage language, whatever goes on the signs. So I've been working on that and I've sent it to the town. Gene and I have looked at it. And we've sent it to Wildlands Trust, who will hold the deed restriction. And right now we're trying to get that done, and we've come up with a sign that if I can still share my screen, I can show you the sign. But there's a sign that was done for an MBV project down in Middleborough that looks pretty good. So we sort of modeling on that. I've shown that to the Hansons. They're happy to have that particular sign on their farm. And so we just have to work out the signage, get the scope put together. And there is a company over that did the signage in Middleborough that we have a rough cost estimate that what it might cost. And so we just have to move that forward. So that's where at least I know we're at. And then the other thing is, I think, Harry, you guys had a meeting yesterday with the Concom to accept the conservation restriction. Is that true? Harry? Must be out.
I wasn't on the meeting.
Oh, you weren't on the meeting. So I'm going to assume that that was approved, but anyway, those are the steps that are being completed right now. Basically, we have to get those actions completed.
Carlton, Mark Peterson's on, I believe. Mark, if you don't mind, can you let us know if that was approved at the Concom?
I didn't realize that Mark was a member of the Concom. That's great. Mark, if you could indicate if you approved it, it shouldn't make any effect on it, other than the fact that it gets done. That's the important part. Mark, are you there?
Oh, it's okay, Cal. So no big deal.
Okay, let's move on.
we don't need to allocate money for the sign in any way. We've already done that, or do we have to wait?
When the town council approved our recommendation for CPA funds, money is now appropriated. We just have to get it spent.
Oh,
And
okay.
Gina needs to write or somebody needs to write a award letter to the town, so it's in writing.
I just meant money for the sign. I thought we would have to somebody would have to pay for the sign. The
We
No,
music-
that's-
included that in the costs that we recommended to the town council.
Ah,
We
good.
included something a little bit north of $7,000 for signage. It was a
Yeah,
high,
okay.
high number, but we needed a high in case other things went less, and so the 1% match. If,
Right.
okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Any questions on Hanson's Farm comments? Okay, that's been a long time in the workings, and it looks like it's a soon to go. 7th Street property, Carlton.
I can update you there. As a member of the Bridgewater Improvement Association who adjoins the Summer Street Park, the president of the BIA, Marilee Kenny Hunt, and I, and the president of the college and his assistant met, and also we had another meeting with Mr. Rulli of the CED where we talked about the status of the park. There are a couple of, so basically I'd gotten concerned that the movement on getting the design of the park done was moving slowly because they have a grant that $500,000 grant, of which $33,000 is for FY25 funds to do the planning of the park. Mr. Rulli updated us that he does have some concepts done. He indicated in our meeting that he would have a public meeting in May to go over it with the public and what would be there. I also requested that he make sure the Parks and Rec Commission gets engaged because they have to actually provide a majority acceptance of the plan. And this all has to happen by, I thought June 1st, it may be June 30th, but that's what the status of that particular park is. The deed can't be filed. I don't know what status with the deed is right now, but we can't do a final report on that until we get a deed thing. And I think that's in the works, and a conservation restriction. That's the other thing. There needs to be a conservation restriction, a park restriction filed, and that's a piece of effort that's in progress. And that's what I know.
Thank you. And as a Parks and Rec person, I can say that the commission has not been notified yet. The employees of Parks and Rec Department, I believe, were involved a while ago. It hasn't come back to the Parks and Rec Commission. And I keep questioning that, so hopefully it will be back soon. Not back, but reach out to Parks and Rec.
Is there a committee working on this? I mean, this is a big project. There should be input from different constituencies in the town, from the public. I know there's going to be a public meeting, but I mean, the devil's in the details on this kind of thing, and we need a lot of input.
Mm-hmm. I don't
There was
disagree with you, Bill.
There was a survey done that had a tremendous amount of response, people with lots of ideas. There was a draft concept plan put up to the state that was part of the park grant application. Basically, all sorts of things were put on there in the hopes of honing it down to what's going to work best. And that's what the contractor is now working on, is coming up with ideas for what they're going to put before the town. But I hear what you're saying, Bill.
Mm-hmm. Is, just to clarify, what CPC has contributed to, that's been, well, I say paid, but it's sitting, as you know, there's a problem finding who to pay. But that was the part to purchase take the property. We're just doing the follow-up for the rest, because part of the CPA requirements is the restriction, as Carlton mentioned. So that's why we're continuing discussing it until that's set.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope I said it right.
No, it's pretty clear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to new business, we just wanted to cover two eligibility forms that we received. The first one is from the Unitarian Church, Universal Unitarian Church. Also the First Parish, and that
I pulled up the, I didn't pull up the church. I'm sorry.
okay, I have it right here. They asked for the total project would be $80,000 to restore the windows. The windows have no religious connotation to them. They're just plain windows. The work requires, reading what they have here, the work requires removal of the windows for offsite restoration, followed by reinstallation with weather stripping. They got their quotes from Blackburn Building Conservation, who has done work for them before. Work could be done in 2 phases for window units each, estimated 4 weeks per phase. As I said, the total project is $80,000, but thanks to a $35,000 bequest from Frank Yateman in 2023, they're putting his $35,000 towards the project. So what they're asking from CPC is $45,000. This is just their eligibility, excuse me, eligibility form. They'd have to put in a complete application. And because it's a religious property, it needs to go through that 3-point test. If you remember, those of you that were on CPC back a few years ago, the Congregational Church, going through the 3-point test, it basically goes back to our Acton, Massachusetts case when funds were given for a church. And there was a question on them.
You know, I can share the 3 points if you want to test.
Okay. Trying to share it. I'd still like to have the committee review it and give us their, they don't have to do it tonight, but their determination on their own to submit, but please show what you have there.
Okay, let me show you the 3 points, okay? So what the state law talks about is the 3-part Supreme Justice Court wording. You have to meet all 3 parts, and you have to address the question whether the grant is maintaining or aiding a nonprofit or religious organization, parentheses, whether a motivating purpose for each grant is to aid the church. The second one is whether the effect of the grants is to substantially aid a nonprofit or religious organization. This one must always be met, and whether the grant will have the effect of substantially aiding the church. And the third part of the test is whether the risks meant to be avoided by an anti-aid amendment are implicated by the grant. So those are the 3-part pieces that we need to consider. And like Gina said, I think we should just, I can send this out if you want, or we need to think about that so we can act on it in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlton. So tonight, do you want to approve the eligibility form as potentially eligible, or do you want to hold off on the whole thing until we review the 3-point test? That's
We funded them once before, a number of years ago, before I was on the committee. Did they go through the 3-part test at that point? Was that for the steeple, or no? I don't know what it was for, but
No,
we
I-
approved funding for.
I can tell you that the 3-part test came after the First Church received its funding from CPA. That there was much later than that, and there was a lawsuit that went, and this 3-part test came out of that. for the Congregational Church downtown, we did go through the three-part.
Right, I remember that.
Right. So my question, do we want to determine tonight that it's potentially eligible or wait until we go through the 3-point test?
Gina, I think if we don't know if it passes the 3-point test, how can we vote for it?
Correct.
So
That's
why
what
don't
I
we,
said.
why
That's-
don't we address the 3-point test and vote on it next meeting, right?
Okay, sounds good. Is everybody in agreement for that?
So that, I'm agree with it, but I'll move that we postpone the eligibility determination for the First Church until our next meeting, and to actually have a follow-up, someone to look at the 3-part test.
Great. Do we have a second?
A second.
Was that Bill, Jeff?
Yeah, second.
Okay.
So what I would suggest we do that, well, let's take the vote first.
Okay, any discussion first?
What I was gonna say was, I can send the 3-part test language to everybody, or to Josh, and he can distribute it to everybody. So you have that, and then you can evaluate it.
Yes, please do. That would be great. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none. Josh, roll call.
Tina,
Yes,
Carlton,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Harry.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
okay, great. We also had an eligibility form from the Fire for Effect Foundation for dealing with Town River Landing Community Project in the amount of $125,000. I hope everybody had a chance to look at that. It was sent out for this meeting, and it was also sent out for last week's meeting. It was determined by, and I want to thank Carlton for his research into this. We found out that the Fire for Effect Foundation doesn't have a lease on the property. They have a license, and the town, Carlton did some research on this, and the town, okay, I have everything jumping into where I'm reading. Hold on.
I'm showing it on the screen, I think.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll look at what, no, you don't have it on the screen, but Blythe, Carlton reached out to Blythe, because we're still looking at you, Carlton. She wrote back, she said, I discussed this with the town council. We agree that your interpretation that the licensee cannot request funds from the town for improvements to the town's own property, which is specified in section H, which is what Carlton's just putting up. The license only provides them the right to use the property, and any expenses are costs are borne by them. Should the town decide on its own that it wishes to expend funds, it can do so, such as the pavilion that has been envisioned. In that case, the goal has been to complete that with no town funds, but rather to depend on fundraising and donations. So look, okay, here we go. Looking at what Carlton has, section H, the licensee agrees that all work performed at the properties in accordance with the terms of this agreement shall be performed fully free of charge and provided at no expense to the licensor. The licensee shall faithfully and completely perform and observe all the terms and conditions of this license. Licensee agrees to incur the full costs associated with all the work performed at the properties in accordance with this agreement. So in regards to this, and somebody else can jump on, Carlton, you can jump on too. It sounds to me like two reasons we should reject their eligibility. These are up for discussion. One, they weren't specific what they wanted done. They just said improvements and gave a bunch of examples, but weren't specific, which would be reason just to return it for more information. But in the light of the town manager and town attorneys, interpretation that it wouldn't pass, that it wouldn't be eligible. And I hope I said that right, Carlton.
Yeah, I would simply say that because there isn't a legal agreement in place between the town and the licensee, which is the Fire for Effect nonprofit, because that specifically states that no town money can be spent on that project, it's no longer eligible for CPA funds.
That seems to be pretty cut and dry,
Yep,
as it's explained.
right. Does anybody have a motion for that?
It's a motion to deny, right?
Yep.
Is there-
On the grounds of, just so we have Pat in the motion to deny, on what grounds?
I would say
Well,
based on
just
the,
because they're only a licensee, they're not
Right.
a
Okay.
controlling party.
based on section H of the license agreement.
Okay. Okay, second,
I'll second it as amended.
Bill. Okay, it wasn't amended though. Well, I guess it was. Carlton kind of added. And Pat, were you okay with what Carlton just added onto your motion?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Josh, roll call.
Tina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes,
Bill,
Yes,
Jeff,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Harry.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Great, thank you so much, unanimous, and I'll get that back to the Fire for Effect Foundation. That's anything other, any other new business?
I'm glad we have the eligibility form so that people don't have to go to the trouble of submitting the entire application after all the work. This is a much better structure that we've got in place now.
Right, thank you, I agree, Bill. It's much better than doing the full application if it's not eligible.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for new business? Okay, public comment. We do have a public. Mark, do you have anything to add or comment on? Okay, hearing not. Our next meeting date is May 28th. Back to the 6:30 PM. So, and I guess that's it. And
motion to adjourn.
whoa, you didn't give me time to say I'd entertain it. Wow. That's good. Second,
I'll second it.
okay, thanks,
Hi,
Harry.
could I just interject something? The HDC is going to be having a meeting next week or the following week to discuss the flagpoles that are being proposed in front of the Academy building. I've been in touch with the acting town manager who's going to be at the meeting discussing the flagpoles and their placement and so forth. So some of you may be interested in tuning in to that meeting. It'll be posted soon, I hope by the end of the week.
Okay, good. Thank you so
Yep.
much. I'd be interested in listening in on that. Thank you. Okay, discussion on the motion to adjourn. Never any discussion on adjourning. Josh, roll call?
Rena,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Harry.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting's adjourned at 7:53. Thank you, everybody, for coming on tonight.
Maybe a
Good night,
record
everyone.
meeting.